there's this side of the leg that you should be looking for her legs coming towards you. She's going here.
For writer, producer, director Gary Moore, The Tree Witch was his first foray into the horror genre, despite having made over 40 previous films.
So The Tree Witch is essentially about growing up and becoming an adult. And it's the story of a 17-year-old girl on the eve of her 18th birthday in the 1600s who's accused of being a witch by the local villagers, and they essentially want to burn her at the stake for being a witch, and her boyfriend obviously doesn't want that, so he hides her in the woods.
The girl, however, she survived to be an old woman by eating the nuts from the trees and catching woodland creatures and feasting on their raw and bloody bodies. She vowed to one day take revenge on the villagers for what they had done to her and the love of her life.
So that's the backstory, and that's told by Alice's boyfriend Chris, Alice being our main character, and it's the eve of her 18th birthday when we start the film. So then after an argument, she's left alone in the house, and the tree witch then comes for Alice. So she has to survive until midnight when she becomes an adult.
With a very small budget, it was always going to be difficult to gather together a cast.
I got most of the cast through Facebook, advertising on Facebook and other kind of social media, and through like other filmmakers that I knew. I'd previously worked with Rachel, who plays the witch, and she jumped at the chance of playing this role because she likes all those kind of quirky, kind of different, out there kind of characters. So she accepted that without even reading the script. Rachel, have you read the script yet?
No. Oops! Why, everyone wants to be a witch as an actor and have prosthetics on, don't they? And I think he knows I like to try different characters out.
Sent him a little self-tape of me crying in the closet.
The dates just worked out with my schedule, and then I was like, let's see what's going on here. So I messaged Gary.
I've always wanted to play like the victim, the victim kind of girl in a horror film.
Wanting to get more film experience working with a film crew and everything, and I've never done horror before.
She's a massive horror fan, so she's done her bedroom out in all these Halloween decorations because the film's also set on Halloween.
Keep your eyes closed.
Alright, I can't see anything.
But she's quite mischievous and she plays practical jokes on her boyfriend Chris. So Chris is your kind of typical teenage boy. He just wants to have sex with his girlfriend. Basically, that's the aim of his character in the film.
Way to make sure that
And he's a nice lad. He's really jokey.
Did you do this?
But he's just got one thing on his mind, and that's what he wants.
Well, we discussed this with Gary a bit. Like when I first got cast, I always think in my head, like Chris is probably like he's got a group of lads, like you know what lads are like when they're 18, and I like to think like he's like the one in the group that still hasn't gone all the way with someone. So I like to think like that's why he's quite persistent. I imagine he has that nagging thing. So I do think he cares for Alice as well, but I think in the back of his head he just really wants to get that done.
So the tree witch herself is this. Well, she was a 17-year-old girl who was accused of being a witch, and she was left in the woods by her boyfriend in order to prevent her from being burned by the local villagers. So she's been left in the woods for like decades and decades until she's become this bitter and twisted kind of character. So it's like kind of being a self-fulfilling prophecy where she ends up becoming the witch that she's been accused of, and then she's trying to get revenge for what they did to her by kind of essentially taking the souls of the daughters of the villagers throughout the kind of the centuries.
For Rachel Meredith, who was on screen only briefly, it was a long process in makeup to become the witch.
So the makeup took 9 hours to apply with 2 hands and her face and a bolt cap. There was not really much challenges. It was just mostly keeping on touch of it because the prosthetics fit really well, surprisingly, they weren't actually made for Rachel's face.
So you were in makeup for 9 hours? How,
9 hours.
How was that experience?
Wasn't too bad actually. The 9 hours itself was pretty hard, but it was well worth it.
Excellent, by the way, Rich.
Good, no problem, guys.
Fucking sick.
We are. Fucking 9 hours in makeup. I know, I'll be loving. I know.
Oh God, when you made it.
Do another one, guys. Do another one. Do one of your mad stories out.
The expensive prosthetics to create the full witch look could only be used once, so Rachel was only ever in full makeup prosthetics for one day. Rachel did, however, have to endure more long periods in makeup for other parts of her body. One day she would just need a hand made up for the witch's arm appearing on the bed, or from the cupboard. On another occasion, it was both feet and legs for the scene under the bed.
And because the hands were sort of special effects, not prosthetics, so every day I had to apply it again and again and match the colours and match the skin tones every single day, so that was a bit of a pain. And overall, the prosthetics, that was on the last day, which was the biggest job. Although it took 9 hours, it was probably the easiest.
And when she was wearing the contact lenses, which gave her the white eyes, Rachel was literally blind and had to feel her way on set and rely on the crew's verbal instructions for her marks. The Tree Witch was a labour of love, as Gary made every prop seen in the film over the course of several painstaking months.
I enjoyed making all of the props, but I think I kind of made a rod for my own back by kind of wanting to include so many.
Gary also production designed Alice's bedroom, turning his own bedroom at home into a teenage girl's room full of spooky Halloween decorations.
So this is going to be the actual cupboard for the film. This is Alice's cupboard in her bedroom. So this is how it's kind of going to look. And then down here, we've got a couple of boxes where Alice keeps her books in. She's got some old books in here, kind of, just things that you've put away over the years. A laundry basket where she can put her dirty clothing. So when it comes to doing the actual shoot of the film, there's a scene that takes place inside this cupboard, but that's going to be physically impossible to do in such a small space. So we're going to actually shoot the bulk of that scene in a different room downstairs, which has the same colour walls as this. So all we're going to do is shoot against the wall, so it'll look like it's inside of the cupboard. So we'll just cheat that. There is going to be a little bit of action that takes place that we can film in here, so we can get because what I'm going to do is when we do that, I'm going to take all this stuff out so we can actually get the camera physically in here. I'm going to do like kind of a couple of shots kind of looking out into the bedroom from inside the cupboard, so those will be quite easy to do. And then the external woodland stuff, that was it. I know an old college that I used to go to, so I knew the surrounding woodlands very well.
Once Gary had gotten permission to shoot at the external location, he then brought in director of photography Fraser Oxley to work out where they were going to shoot the opening scenes of Alice and Chris's return from the Halloween party.
I've worked with Gary before on a feature film we shot about 2 years ago. And he just gave me a message, said he's got this new script.
With virtually no budget, Gary and Fraser had only 2 days on set prep, working round the clock to choreograph the more complicated shots, and with no gaffer to light the scenes, planning where they would put lighting in such a confined space.
When we first started planning the film, we originally intended to tent the window and have some moonlight coming through the blinds, and that would provide all the ambient light for the room, which would have made our job a lot easier because that had just been up for the whole shoot. Budget got in the way and we couldn't do that, so instead we had to light from within the room, which posed a massive challenge because we had to move the lights all the time, and then you've got to factor in there's things with the fairy lights and all the practicals in the room that weren't really bright enough to actually make a difference by themselves, so you've got to supplement that with the lighting that we had. One of the ways we did it under the bed was we ended up actually using a set of fairy lights that we taped together and taping them underneath the bed. Because we couldn't get one of our LED panels in there. Yeah, there were lots of just little challenges like that kind of added up. I mean, Gary and I have a very good, strong working relationship. We bounce ideas off each other. We argue a lot.
Wouldn't it be better to do the action first and then do the plate?
Well, I suggested plate first because then if you knock it right at the end of the take, you can still use the start of it. But I think it's a good argument
because it's arguing for the sake of the betterment of the film, if that's the right way to try and put that.
When we first meet our main characters, Alice and Chris, they're in zombie makeup, having been to a Halloween party.
It's a living.
Unlike the many hours in makeup for the witch, Katie and Glenn's makeup was a simple process. When Alice is grabbed by the witch and has the life force drained from her, a very simple makeup look was required. The white eye contact lenses sold the final deathly look. Gary is a seasoned filmmaker, having made over 40 short-form films, and despite having not been on set for several years, he easily jumped right back into the filmmaking process.
There's only so many films that you can kind of self-fund. My last film that I did shoot was a feature film. That was about 2 or 3 years ago. So I was putting a lot of effort into that in that time as well. So I was writing a lot. I was developing feature film scripts. I did have like option agreements with other companies to do that. So I was kind of putting like projects aside because I thought that bigger projects were going to happen with different companies. They didn't happen, so I then developed my own feature film, which I self-funded, and I did that. So that took up a lot of time, basically. So I was trying to concentrate on getting a feature film made as opposed to continue to doing short films. But then when this opportunity came up, I jumped at the chance to do this because I was planning on doing a short film this year. And when this opportunity came up, that kind of pushed us to do it, really.
I think he's really good at having an eye for the camera as well, and knowing exactly what he wants his shots to look like and exactly how he wants like the character to react. And I think he was really good in saying, yeah, you need to do this bigger, or you need to do that again and try this, because I think that always helps.
And I come out of the bed and just slip down onto it, and even hold onto the sheets is kind of brace yourself before it.
But yeah, it was really good. It was really good fun as well. Like you've got to have a fun director, I think. Otherwise, it's just like you just hate it because it's just like it seems like work, but it's at the same time you want it to be fun, and it was. We had really good fun.
I think he gave us a lot of freedom with the parts, which is good. Like, he didn't over-direct, but when he needed to jump in, he would jump in.
I think if you take your shoes off while Katie's saying the line, sad in a way, it feels like I'm losing a part of me, so you've already kind of get off.
But a lot of the time, he just sort of let me and Katie sort of go our own way with the characters. And, like, obviously, if he didn't, he must have been okay with it because he never really chirped up a lot with that.
I like how Gary works. I think that's, and he knows that I'm similar like that as well. It's like if we have a project, we have something we'll work on, we know what we want, the way we want to do it, and I'm like that as well, and he knows that. So I think that's why he sort of can trust us with that kind of with me work. He knows I'm quite professional, and but I know he's very professional as well. So I know he's always going to put 100% in.
Okay, Glenn, and action.
The budget constraints also meant that Gary found himself wearing many hats.
Okay.
I really struggled to get a sound recordist, so I had 2 sound recordists for this film. Both of them worked part-time, so they couldn't commit to the full shoot. Then I had 2 days where I didn't have a sound recordist, so I had to borrow some equipment from one of the others, and I actually did the sound recording myself. And at least one of those days when I was doing that was really, really stressful. It was the big day when we had the day with the witch where she was in full prosthetics, and that took quite a long time to get all the prosthetics and the makeup done. So we had quite a short time at the end of the day. I think about 3 hours at the end of the day to shoot all the witch's stuff. So that was quite stressful, trying to do the sound recording, to work with the actors and have the equipment kind of around my neck and holding the booms and trying to manoeuvre in the small room between lighting and all the rest of the cast and crew that were there. So that was quite a stressful experience.
Gary even had 2 acting roles in the film, although you don't see him.
It was always the intention to play the Grim Reaper role. That was simply because I created the model by moulding my own body, so it was my body underneath the robes, so it made sense for me to kind of do the little kind of movements that Alice imagines she's seeing in the film. But then I couldn't get anyone to play the father in the film, which is just a voice on the phone. You get back up here. He's still there. So I thought it was easy enough just to do it myself.
It was fun, yes. I was enjoying making people look scary, so that was fun, and the film did go nice and smooth, so there wasn't any problems. So
Seeing the final product of the hand, the feet, the prosthetics at the end of it was well worth it. The shots are brilliant, and you walk into a room and someone goes,
Very rewarding. I mean, looking at the footage, it looks pretty good.
Like some of the reactions I think that we've got on film are probably real, like disgust and stuff. So it speaks absolute volumes what Pat's done. She's amazing.
It's made us realise how much I want to do film and TV rather than
from reading the script to then actually seeing the prosthetics and seeing the room and seeing the props, the energy and time that's been put into it, it's really exciting, and I think it's going to look brilliant. Like, you're going to be surprised, you're going to be shocked.
Right, guys, we're going for a take, so be quiet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure, James will be really happy to see you use his blood that way.
Cut that bit out.
No. Yes,
Well,
John.
I'll cut that bit out when I do the video.
Cable's in it now, Gary. Oh, fuck.
Can I get the stuff?
It's just at the end though. Oh.
Yeah, like halfway through.
Huh?
Like from halfway through. It kept coming in and out, so bits of you.
Sorry, mate.
Not to apologise to me.
Just a trainee, you know.
Do you want some water or anything?
This time.
Do you want me to get you some water? Sure.
I'm alright.
Throw this out.
What's
We did that on purpose.
In all fairness, not the worst I've been with. Probably. The worst, probably.
Your mum doesn't count.
I'll take my chances with the tree bit.
You can't stay a little girl forever, Alice.
That light should be enough.
I realised halfway through that.
I didn't do that. I just threw a tenny at you.
Oh my, it's so hard not to...
Oh,
I've done the leg shuffle
damage
again.
another prop.
Right,
John, get that on.
The lamp.
Look at.
Oh yeah.
I wasn't smashed me.
He's broke another prop.
You taking your clothes off or something?
I want an empty one.
Action. To reset.
Lift up the specs, Katie. I'll get the wheels lined up.
Sorry.
Oh,
You okay?
everyone's going to be, everyone's going to be bruising after this.
Foot up. You're not recording sound, by the
Oh,
way.
we're not.
I thought she was just having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So,
I go home now.